watching News 3 Now, live at 4.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Live at 4. Thanks for joining us on this Monday. Hope you had a good weekend.
Yeah, it's looking to be a busy day. We're starting off with team coverage of potentially dangerous severe weather throughout the area.
Our Arman Rahman is in Grant County. He'll be bringing us some live coverage momentarily, and meteorologist Jacob Montesano is here in the studio tracking the potential storm. So let's begin with Jacob. What's the latest?
Well, right now we're still only seeing just some light rain for parts of our area, but other places have already seen that severe weather begin. Now, looking in the far northern portion of our area, northern Juneau County is getting clipped by this kind of isolated supercell. Haven't seen a severe thunderstorm warning with this storm, but we have seen severe thunderstorm warnings in central Wisconsin already. Meanwhile, in the southwestern portion of the state, we're starting to see some of these showers move in. Now, there are no severe storms yet in this region, but these storms have been forming very quickly across the central portion of Wisconsin. Also want to point out that looking further west, you can see the severe weather already developed in southern Minnesota. That is expected to move into our area. So we still have a moderate risk for severe weather northwest of Madison, enhanced risk for everybody else. And looking at the state of Wisconsin as a whole, the entire state pretty much under the enhanced risk, just a slight risk in southeastern Wisconsin, but still expected to see some severe weather there. So we're going to continue to see some isolated supercells over the next couple of hours, and some of these storms could absolutely produce very strong winds, large hail, and a few isolated tornadoes. Now, just because this Pacific Mile is not showing a lot of storms, it doesn't mean we can't see a lot of those thunderstorms. Now, later in the night, we'll see a line of storms move through, especially the northern portion of our area, that could also bring some severe weather. So it is going to be a very busy next roughly 8 to 10 hours. So definitely stay updated to our latest forecast. We'll continue providing updates as the forecast changes.
All right, Jacob, thank you so much. Yeah, it's hot and sticky out there. It almost feels like the conditions are coming together for something. Let's check in this afternoon with our Arman Rahman.
He is in Fenimore. Arman, how's it going out there?
Yeah, Brady and Susan, as you said, I'm here in Fenimore right now, and it seems a lot of the same thing, a lot of that warm, sunny calm before the storm. Right now, the only things that have been worth note have been the winds. They've been pretty high consistently throughout the afternoon that we've been here. And Grant County Emergency Management does still tell me that they want people to be as weather alert as possible as they go on through the night. They were too busy to talk to us. However, on the way up here, I did talk to the Iowa County Emergency Management team. They said that they've added an additional person onto their staff to have 3 people manning the phones tonight for damage throughout the whole duration of the storms. And so they add that everyone should keep in mind different sort of weather alert tips. And here's what the Deputy Director, Amanda Gardner, had to say to me earlier.
We have a history of a lot of straight line winds through the county. There's a lot of open area. The dangers would be power lines down, trees down, debris, flying debris, stuff like that. So we ask people to just be very careful if they don't need to travel during the storm, stay put.
And Gardner says that they've set up a mini emergency operations center to keep monitoring any information coming in from the NWS, but she wants people to have a weather radio, have their phone charged and ready throughout the night, and of course have a television on nearby if they can, just to get those up-to-date alerts. She says do not rely on those outdoor sirens. Those are really only for people working or outside at the time. You may not hear them inside if there's a tornado or something threatening in your area right now. We're going to be out here in the western portion of Wisconsin near that Iowa border throughout the night here, tracking those storms as they come in, and we'll bring you the latest. For now, reporting live in downtown Fenimore, I'm Arman Rahman, News 3 Now.
Thank you, Arman. Well, we have an update to a major story that we've been following for months. The former Waupun prison warden charged in relation to inmate deaths will not go to prison. Randall Hepp pleaded no contest to a misdemeanor for violating state institution laws. A judge fined him $500. Hepp was previously charged with felony misconduct stemming from the deaths of 2 inmates. Jalen Banks will show us what happened at today's sentencing later on Live at 4.
All 27 UW-Madison students and alumni whose visas were terminated can stay in the U.S. The university provided that update earlier today. It comes days after the Trump administration abruptly ended its legal battle with international students across the country. The administration had revoked the visas of thousands of students and alumni. Neither UW nor the students were given a reason as to why their visas were terminated and now restored.
In a statement on the reversal, UW Chancellor Jennifer Mnuchin said in part, "This situation was deeply troubling, upended lives, and created both fear and harm. I want to personally thank the many members of our community, along with local, state, and federal officials who worked to assist our students." A restaurant on Madison's east side is open again 2 months after a Metro bus hit the back of the building.
The bus crashed after a passenger on board allegedly attacked the driver, causing him to lose control. Our Merrill Hubbard brings us to the Asian House restaurant to see how it's recovered.
The open signs are on here at Asian House Restaurant after 2 months of repairs from February's bus collision.
When I saw this happen, and this is kind of my world is like upside down. When I work here in the restaurant, this is my whole life.
Bonnie Hong's life was put on pause when a Metro bus collided with the back of her restaurant. Their kitchen's stove and hood were severely damaged, which meant they couldn't make any meals. With time and insurance, they were able to make repairs and now have a functioning kitchen. While there's still work to be done, Bonnie says they are ready to serve their customers.
The most important part for me right now is like I'm worried about like how to get all the customers know we are reopened and then getting them come back.
Asian House Restaurant is her family's main source of income. Asian House Restaurant is not open on Tuesdays, but Bonnie says she hopes this Monday will bring in some of their regulars and raise awareness for their reopening. Reporting on Madison's east side, Merrill Hubbard, News 3 Now.
Thank you, Merrill. And Asian House will be open the rest of the week again, except for Tuesday.
A judge has ordered an updated plan for the conditional release of Morgan Geyser. Geyser, who has been in a mental health institute since 2017, nearly killed her 6th grade classmate in 2014. She and Anissa Wire did so in an attempt to appease the fictional character Slender Man. A judge asked for an updated report after the state rejected the conditional release plan presented this morning. That plan needs to come within the next 30 days.
No one is hurt after a large tree fell into an apartment complex in Fort Atkinson. Crews responded to Commonwealth Drive just after 4 o'clock Sunday afternoon. The apartments have significant damage to the roof and balconies. Thankfully, no one was inside the affected units when the tree fell. The Red Cross is helping people who lived there until the tree is removed and the roof is repaired.
Images show damage to a home in Kleiman due to a fire last night. Crews responded to the home on Train Road at 11:30 Sunday for reports of flames coming from the kitchen and spreading to a second-story living room. Firefighters were able to get into the home through the basement and make their way upstairs. The homeowners, another person staying there, and 3 pets got out safely. Crews were on the scene for about 4 hours. The cause of the fire is still under investigation. Well, next on Live at 4, when the process for choosing the next pope will begin.
Plus, U.S. citizens deported, how old they are, and the justification from the Trump administration when we're back.
Harvard University and the Trump administration will present their arguments before a judge in July. Today was the first court appearance for the school's legal battle against the White House. Harvard sued the administration last week, saying that it illegally froze more than $2 billion in federal funds. Harvard will have to operate without the funding well into the summer.
A White House official says the Trump administration has deported 139,000 undocumented immigrants since the president took office. The president's border czar, Tom Homan, made that announcement this morning. It comes a day after news broke 3 children who are U.S. citizens were deported to Honduras with their mothers last week, and they include a 4-year-old receiving treatment for metastatic cancer. The Trump administration says the mothers, who are undocumented, requested their children join them. The family's attorneys dispute that claim.
A top diplomat in the Trump administration says this week will be critical in determining whether the U.S. can continue efforts to broker a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine. Yesterday, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio spoke with the Russian foreign minister about next steps. Earlier today, Russia announced a 3-day ceasefire starting May 8th. But the Trump administration does not see that offer as a meaningful step to end the war.
A man is charged with multiple counts of murder after allegedly ramming his car into a crowd in Vancouver over the weekend. The attack killed 11 people and injured dozens more. This happened at a Filipino heritage festival Saturday night. Authorities have ruled out terrorism and say the suspect has a history of mental health issues. The victims' ages range between 5 and 65. But no names have been released so far.
We have more information this afternoon about the process to elect Pope Francis's successor. Next Wednesday, May 7th, the conclave will begin. The cardinals set the date after arriving for the first day of informal meetings following the Pope's funeral Saturday. The conclave could have opened as early as May 5th, but the cardinals wanted extra time to get to know one another better and find consensus on a candidate.
We are looking at a busy Monday in our weather. Let's get a look at our first warn forecast. Jacob?
Yeah, we currently are in that alert day, and that's going to continue through the overnight hours. Really, all of Wisconsin is in this alert day for the potential of strong to severe thunderstorms. Now, right now, we're just seeing a few light showers, but we're really keeping an eye on this area in southwestern Wisconsin, northeastern Iowa, to see if these storms do strengthen as they are potentially going to. Now, right now, again, nothing too heavy right now, but these storms have been firing up very quickly over the last couple of hours in central Wisconsin, so these may do the exact same thing. So definitely just be ready. I would advise really anyone, especially in southwestern Wisconsin, to just try and get home right now and stay put in there through Tuesday morning. Now, again, looking at the severe weather outlook, moderate risk for areas further northwest, enhanced risk for places for Madison area south and east. But again, everyone is expected to see very strong storms. To put the moderate risk into perspective, we see one in Wisconsin roughly once every 2 years. So this could be one of the busiest severe weather days of the year. And looking at the potential hazards, likely going to see strong winds. Definitely, most likely though, will be the large hail. And we also could see a few isolated tornadoes as well, possibly at EF2 strength or higher. So it is going to be a very busy evening. Let's take a look at the forecast. We're expecting to see some isolated supercells that will produce some stronger storms. Again, just because this model does not show a lot of those storms doesn't mean we're not going to see a lot. It is possible that these isolated supercells may produce very strong storms for some locations, while other locations miss out entirely. So again, it may be hit or miss for each individual location over the next couple of hours. But I also want to focus on this line of storms that right now is in southern Minnesota. It is expected to move through Wisconsin from the northwest to the southeast, and it's very likely going to impact the northern portion of our area, roughly around 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. Right around midnight will be the most likely time frame. But as this system, or as this line of storms continues to push further south and east, it is going to dissipate a little bit. Still could see some severe weather on the back end of this system, kind of around 2 to 3 a.m. But once we get to sunrise Tuesday, that's when it looks like the severe weather will certainly have come to an end. And then we're actually going to be pretty dry for the rest of your Tuesday. So looking at the most likely hazards, again, strong winds and large hail are very likely. It looks like that line of storms later in the night has the best chance to produce the strong winds, with the large hail coming from those isolated storms that we're going to start to see now through about 9 to 10 p.m. And that's also the best chance to see those few tornadoes that are possible as well. So again, definitely stay updated over the next couple of hours because it has the potential to be a busy day. But Blaze will mention this in a moment. It is possible that the severe weather is on the lighter side. Now, again, I'll send it over to Blaze in a moment to talk more about that. But here's some good news. We're going to see some rain Wednesday into Thursday, but take a look at the forecast after Thursday. We're going to have a lot of sunshine and several days in a row with very nice weather, 60s and 70s, and that looks to continue for the middle of next week. So we got to get through the severe weather here. The good news is that Wednesday into Thursday, although we're likely going to see rainfall, we're not expecting severe weather with that, and then very nice by next weekend.
All right, Jacob, thank you. Whatever happens, good to have a heads up and to get prepared now. And as you know, our First Warn weather team has been warning for days about the chance for this severe weather tonight. It's a tricky forecast.
It is. Well, the threat of that happening depends on several conditions. Meteorologist Blaze Keller is here to tell us about the cap. You brought us a beverage.
Yeah, don't drink it. I kind of did this example on Sunday as well, but it's not a new term. We always have something in the atmosphere called an atmosphere cap. During severe weather events like today, it's really important for us to look at that cap, because if it's a strong one, we may not see severe weather, or we may see limited severe weather instead of widespread. So essentially, you can think of the atmosphere today as a shaken up can of whatever soda or pop, whoever uses that word, you can think of. We've got the energy, we've got the moisture, we've got the instability, but the cap is still on. And so, you know, weather is not an exact science, so I try to think of ways that it can better relate to folks at home to understand. Why are we talking about an atmosphere cap? I don't know what that means. It's a lid on the atmosphere. So what we're going to be watching over the next couple of hours is, does this cap stay strong enough that we keep the bottle or the can from exploding, and I won't do it, or do we open it up and the storms kind of erupt? They use all that built up energy, all that pressure is essentially released, and then those storms can become very strong very quickly.
Well, what causes a crack in the cap?
That can be caused by cold air. So cold air is much denser than warm air. It essentially sinks. And so when you get storms behind where the discrete supercells could form, that air rushes out ahead and it forces all that warm air up into the atmosphere. So if you get strong enough cold air, it could essentially just push the top off. Sometimes, you know, if you throw a shaken bottle on the ground and it explodes, that's kind of like cold air. A dry line as well, or another storm forming. It may be weak, but again, that rain-cooled air from it rushes out in all directions, forces all the air up. We could get more storms. It's kind of like a chain reaction.
The thing that's really scary about it is when it happens overnight.
Yes.
And this has the potential to do that, right?
It does. And, you know, along with the cap, the timing is also going to kind of working in our favor, because we're still early on in the severe weather season, so the storms still need that sunlight. And when you take out the sunlight, you kind of take away another key ingredient. But yes, whether it's in the heart of the severe weather season or early on like tonight, nighttime just adds an extra layer of danger, because storm spotters just have that much more difficulty seeing if a tornado's on the ground. We can see it on the radar, but if we can visually see it, it kind of makes it a little bit easier too.
This is a great way to explain it for people.
It is.
Another example that I thought of over the weekend is Christmas Vacation. Clark Griswold, he puts all the lights on the house and he's like, all right, here we go, we're gonna light it up, and it doesn't. That's kind of like what the cap is doing. It's not letting the lights on the house shine. But as we know, his wife fixes it and then eventually it shines. So that could happen here. We just need that little flick of a switch. Hopefully it doesn't happen. I don't want widespread severe weather. But again, this is just a way that I think it might help folks at home understand, why do they keep mentioning cap as of late? It's nothing new, it's just something that we're really focusing on today.
Well, thank you for all the work you do and the rest of the team for keeping us informed.
We're busy behind the scenes, and as Jacob just gave us the forecast, we're going to be busy all night.
We're thankful for you, Blaze. Thank you.
Don't open that can.
Yeah, or go up to Eric Franke and say, hey, Eric, do you want to come?
Right.
Coming up on Live at 4, Sinners sinks its teeth into another phenomenal weekend at the box office.
But was it enough to put The Accountant 2 in debt? We'll show you when Live at 4 continues. Horror movies are often one-hit wonders, but Sinners is defying those odds.
It won the box office again over the release of Ben Affleck's new movie, The Accountant. Is The Accountant worth seeing? Here's Will Loper's review.
Hey, Susan and Brady. Sinners easily stayed at #1 at the box office with a phenomenal $45 million in its second weekend. While the new film in theaters, The Accountant 2, took third with around 24. But is the film worth seeing?
Does that make you nervous?
You're an escaped convict, trained by mob accountants, bureaucrats, or drug cartels, money launderers.
Is that a yes?
Ray King has been murdered. Do you like puzzles, Mr. Wolf?
In 2016, The Accountant was released, starring Ben Affleck as Christian Wolf, an autistic accountant uncovering theft in criminal organizations.
This guy risks his life uncooking the books for some of the scariest people on the planet.
Now he's back in this sequel, working with his brother Braxton, played by John Bernthal, uncovering conspiracies and, of course, fighting their way through a myriad of bad guys.
I need to know who Ray King was meeting with.
Let me do the talking. I said more than I thought.
While the first Accountant film built its suspense around its intriguing premise and central character, the second film contains no surprises and opts for a more humorous approach.
I like camping.
So do I.
I thought I saw an Airstream in one of your photos.
Yes, that's my home. That's where I live.
Oh, permanently.
Well, as long as I'm alive. Eventually, this body will be a corpse.
The problem is the humor never lands, and the plot meanders rather than provides forward momentum. The action is well staged, but it's few and far between. And while the interplay between Affleck and Bernthal is entertaining, it's not enough to make The Accountant 2 worth seeing.
We go over the plan again?
For Live at 4, I'm Will Loper.
Go see Sinners.
I was just going to say, you recommended
Phenomenal.
highly. Oh, great.
One of the best I've seen in a while.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good endorsement.
Well, coming up on Live at 4, what we heard from a judge today in the sentencing of the former Waupun warden.
And a big change is coming to Madison's Edgewood High School. Our Kyle Pazorski tells us what to expect.
You're watching News 3 Now, live at 4, moving forward.
The weather is the big story on this Monday today on Live at 4.
We are starting off with team coverage of potentially dangerous severe weather throughout the area.
Our Armand Rahman is in Fenimore in Grant County this afternoon, bringing us live coverage. And meteorologist Jacob Montesano is tracking the potential storm. So let's check in first with Jacob. It's very humid and sticky, a little sunny out there. That's not a good combination, right, Jacob?
Yeah, and like Blaze mentioned not too long ago, that cap is just about, it's ready to explode. The question is, will it explode? Right now, still haven't seen that yet, but we are seeing some showers begin to continue to push through southwestern Wisconsin. The storms through central Wisconsin earlier in the afternoon, they've been forming very, very quickly. So these can turn from showers to severe storms in as little as 15 minutes. So again, I advise everyone to kind of try to get home soon and just, hunker down for the rest of the evening. Also want to point out that further northwest, we're seeing severe storms in southern Minnesota, already a confirmed tornado in southern Minnesota. So we're going to be seeing the potential for that here in southern Wisconsin. Can't say for sure if that will happen, but the potential is there, and you can see with the severe weather outlook, enhanced risk for just about everybody, moderate risk for areas northwest. Now, taking a look at future track, we are going to continue to see storms kind of a little bit more isolated for the next couple of hours. Definitely can produce that severe weather, and then we'll have that line of storms later in the night, really bringing those storms to the northern portion of our area, where we could see strong winds, large hail with those. But those isolated storms that we're going to see from about now through 9 to 10 p.m., those are the storms that could definitely produce some isolated tornadoes. So again, I advise everyone to stay tuned to the forecast for the next couple of hours. We'll continue providing live updates. Also, as you can see, a lot of the storms will clear out by the time we get to sunrise Tuesday. But until then, it'll be very busy. I'll continue having more details a little bit later.
All right, Jacob, thanks so much. Let's get now to our Armand Rahman, who got in the car and headed west. He joins us live this afternoon in Grant County. Hi, Armand. What's it look like out there right now?
That's right, Susan and Brady. Well, Susan and Brady, it is still pretty calm down here right now. A lot of people still walking, driving downtown. We have seen the clouds darken a little bit here and there and cause some drizzling, some sprinkles of rain. However, that's about the most precipitation we've seen down here so far. It's a lot of that wait and see kind of attitude that not only the residents here have, but the emergency management has, both in Iowa and Grant County. They are aware of those really severe risks that Jacob was just mentioning that could move into this area at any time and could spur up with those supercells at any time. But right now, again, things rather calm here. We'll still monitor this western part of Wisconsin throughout the night and bring you the latest updates. For now, reporting live in downtown Fenimore, Armand Rahman, News 3 Now.
Thank you, Armand. We have a major update to a story we've been following for months. The former Waupun prison warden charged in relation to inmate deaths will not go to prison. Randall Hepp pleaded no contest to misdemeanor for violating state institution laws. A judge fined him $500. Hepp was previously charged with felony misconduct stemming from the deaths of the 2 inmates. The judge said the sentencing was symbolic and Hepp was unaware of what was happening at the facilities he oversaw. To Wall Street now, the Dow gained 114 points, the Nasdaq lost 17, and the S&P 500 is up 4.
A seismic change will be coming to Madison's Edgewood High School as the administration is looking to improve learning.
Kyle Pazorski shows us the change.
We wanted to go a route of a little more strict cell phone policy.
That was the decision Edgewood High School's administration came to after 2 years of discussions on student phone use. Beginning in the fall of this year, the school will implement the use of these lockable pouches to keep cell phones out of class. How it works is students will lock their phone in the pouches upon entering the school. They will then unlock them at the end of the day when they leave. Principal Jerry Zander says doing so will improve the mental health of students, eliminate distractions, and foster community.
Although, we might have some upset students right now and disappointed students, I think once they realize that every student does not have their phone during the school day, they'll realize that it is in the best interest of us as a community.
In Madison, Kyle Pazorski, News 3 Now.
Thank you, Kyle. Zander says overall the response from parents has been positive.
Coming up on Live at 4, Jacob is tracking potentially dangerous storms overnight.
His full first warn forecast when we're back. We are looking at an active Monday. Here is your first warn forecast with meteorologist Jacob Montesano.
Yeah, we're currently seeing those alert day conditions unfold. That is going to continue for about the next 10 hours or so. Through about 2 to 3 a.m., we are going to see the potential for severe weather. So taking a look at the current radar once again, still only seeing some light showers. We're continuing to keep an eye on these showers, though, in southwestern Wisconsin. Like I mentioned earlier, these can turn from just light showers to very strong storms very quickly because that energy is in place. Now, as we take a look at the severe weather outlook, we continue to point out that there's the moderate risk northwest, but an enhanced risk for everyone. However, everyone should just treat this as the chance of severe weather is definitely very high. We don't normally see a moderate risk in the state of Wisconsin. Looking at the severe weather hazards likelihood, wind and hail are the most likely, but we still are expecting the possibility of a few tornadoes. And obviously the tornadoes will be very isolated, but they will produce, if they do strengthen, they could produce massive damage. So the possibility of tornadoes at EF2 or higher level is there. So I advise everyone to stay updated to the forecast because it could potentially turn pretty dangerous this during the evening hours. And like I mentioned, wind, hail, tornado risk. I do want to point out, though, that the wind risk, or just the straight line winds, more likely the further north you're located. Meanwhile, the hail, very likely everywhere. And the tornado risk, pretty likely everywhere. Again, a little bit stronger as you go further northwest. Now, I've been showing one of the models that isn't as strong with the potential for severe weather. Here's one that is. And if this model does indeed happen, we could be talking about potentially multiple tornadoes. Now, I don't want to make everyone panic just yet, but again, the potential is there, and these storms would impact much of our area if this scenario does come true. In this case, the cap would obviously break, as we've been talking about, and let plenty of thunderstorms form across southern Wisconsin, especially from now through about 9 to 10 p.m. And then later in the night, we're going to see that line of storms move through the northern portion of our area. Might still produce some severe weather in southern Wisconsin, but by midnight to 2 a.m., the strongest of storms will be off in the central portion of the state. And then by the time we get to Tuesday morning, we are going to be seeing dry conditions, especially after sunrise Tuesday. So it is going to be a busy evening, as we keep talking about, but here's the good news. We have a chance of rain Wednesday into Thursday, but we're not expecting any severe weather with that. After that rain, though, take a look at the rest of the week and into early next week. We're going to have several days of sunshine and very nice temperatures. The weekend especially is looking very, very nice. So once we get through today, we have another chance of rain, but not severe weather, and it is looking very nice by the time we get to the weekend.
It looks beautiful, and we don't want to scare everyone or panic anyone, but we're still kind of in a wait-and-see mode, right, Jacob?
Yeah, we want to make sure everyone's aware that there are two scenarios of how this evening could unfold. There's the lighter scenario, or there's the more dangerous scenario. And if that second scenario does happen, we just want everyone to know that it could be a dangerous situation.
Yeah, just be ready for anything.
Yeah.
All right, Jacob, thank you so much. Coming up on Live at 4, a Milwaukee judge arrested for allegedly obstructing ICE.
How solid the federal government's case is when we come back.
Is the administration planning to pursue any more investigations or prosecutions like was done against the judge in Wisconsin, against local officials?
Well, we'd have to defer you to the Department of Justice, obviously, for specific prosecutions or cases against individuals. But as I said in my remarks, the executive order the president will sign later this afternoon does direct the Attorney General and also Kristi Noem, our great Secretary of Homeland Security, to provide a list of sanctuary cities in which local officials are not complying with this federal order and are not complying with federal immigration laws. It's quite simple. Obey the law, respect the law, and don't obstruct federal immigration officials and law enforcement officials when they are simply trying to remove public safety threats from our nation's communities.
That was the White House press secretary earlier today responding to a question about an executive order targeting sanctuary cities and whether we'll see arrests similar to the one that we saw here last week.
Last Friday, the FBI arrested Milwaukee County Circuit Judge Hannah Dugan.
Dugan is charged with obstruction of justice. A criminal complaint alleges she used a jury door in her courtroom to help an undocumented immigrant who is facing misdemeanor criminal charges evade ICE agents.
We asked UW legal expert Howard Schwaber whether this is obstruction of justice.
So you really have to separate the law and the politics here. If we accept as true everything the government is saying, and of course the reason we have trials is that we don't accept everything that the government says. But if you assume that everything the government is alleging is true, then yeah, this is a pretty strong case. The judge went way out of her way, not only to not help apprehend this guy, but to guide him out of the courtroom in a way that would avoid the agents without informing the government attorney what she was doing. I would say this looks like a pretty strong case for obstruction. But that's only the pure law side. The politics is much more complicated.
Yeah, and on that note, I wanted to know about the precedent this sets, because there is that basic guarantee where someone can go into a courthouse, seek due process without fear of being arrested on the spot. Right. So what happened here, do you think this will have a ripple effect on other immigrants, witnesses, defendants, who, when they go into the courtroom, would they think twice about it if they know that the executive branch, the Trump administration, for example, is basically waiting for them?
I think there's no question. I should have said law, politics, and policy. So on the policy side, that's exactly the fear. Not only, anyone whose legal status is unclear, and don't forget that the Trump administration has not only been targeting people who are illegally in America, but people who are here in ways that were legal under the Biden administration, but have now been made illegal. There's a lot of ambiguity. So it will absolutely have a chilling effect on people's willingness to participate in the judicial process. That being said, it does appear from the complaint that there was an attempt to distinguish between the hallways and public areas of the courthouse and the courtrooms themselves, and that's a very traditional distinction. There's always been a norm that the police wouldn't enter into a courtroom, particularly, while it's in session. But there's also always been a norm that it's perfectly okay to perform an arrest in a public area. So in one sense, what ICE is doing is not different from what police authorities have done in the past, but in another sense, it's part of this larger project of sowing fear among the immigrant population. You may recall there used to be a big discussion of self-deportation, right? We will just make their lives so fearful and uncomfortable they will want to leave. And in that sense, to the extent that that's part of the program or having that effect, it could have very serious effects on the ability of the courts to operate, and ripple effects on the degree to which people whose immigration status is at all unclear will be driven underground.
Well, we've talked about the law and we've talked about the policy. Let's talk about the politics. Other than the obvious, why is this so complicated?
Well, so the politics, and having said as I did, that this is, on its face at least, without knowing more, a strong case of obstruction of justice. It's also the case that it's highly unusual to go around arresting judges. It did happen once in the first Trump term with a judge in Massachusetts. It's even more unusual to do it in this very visible way with handcuffs and photographs in a way that looks very clearly designed to intimidate and embarrass the judge. And that's the political side. So we've seen for months, really literally since the day of inauguration, the Trump administration trying to go after federal judges who rule against their actions, threatening impeachments, threatening to shut down courts, generally speaking in very derogatory and even threatening terms toward those judges. That's a federal separation of powers issue, and that will ultimately land at the U.S. Supreme Court. This, I think, is more about trying to intimidate state officials, not just judges, but state and local officials generally, and make them frightened to resist or fail to cooperate. I don't think it's a coincidence that just this morning, the press secretary announced a new executive order targeting sanctuary cities and state and local officials who participate in sanctuary programs. I think the next phase that we're seeing, so to speak, of the Trump administration's attempt to silence critics is aimed at state government officials, and it's starting with judges. So on the one hand, legally, I think, again, taking the government complaint completely at face value, which at this stage is what we need to do, it's a strong case. Politically, it's very clearly, I think declaration of war is a little strong, but a declaration of hostilities, let's say, towards state and local officials, including judges who are viewed as non-cooperative. And how that will play out, obviously, is critically important. We already have another Wisconsin judge who said she will effectively go on strike, shut down her courtroom, until the chief judge gives some clear guidance as to when and where ICE agents may operate in courthouses. So this could become a flashpoint at local courthouses around the country, which would be the most interesting thing to watch. Will this be repeated elsewhere?
Yeah, it's quite the case, and we will continue to monitor it.
Professor Schwaber, great to see you. Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Judge Dugan, by the way, is out of jail. She'll be back in court on May 15th.
Coming up on Live at 4, we now know who will be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Who made the cut and when the ceremony is when we come back. Well, we now know the names of the artists who will be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this year.
Chubby Checker, Cyndi Lauper, Outkast, Soundgarden, The White Stripes, Bad Company, and Joe Cocker are all in this year's class. Artists become eligible for nomination at least 25 years after they released their first commercial recording. Several other artists like Salt-N-Pepa and the late Warren Zevon will also be honored. The induction ceremony is in Los Angeles in November.
And Jacob is here keeping a close eye on the weather. The waiting game continues to see if this is all going to come together and create some severe weather.
Yeah, we definitely think that we are going to see some severe weather. Right now, the current radar is still mostly showing showers, but you can kind of see some of a little bit heavier precipitation kind of impacting areas around Platteville. But I would say around 6 to 9 p.m. That'll be the peak time, especially for Madison and areas to the east. Then maybe a little bit later for far northern counties. But definitely stay updated throughout the evening.
All right, good to know. Thank you, Jacob. We'll be right back. Tomorrow on Live at 4, we're going to talk about food dye bans, the impact a federal ban could have on your health. And later on News 3 Now at 5, the story of how one local teacher overcame obstacles and how it impacts her teaching methods. That is straight ahead tonight at 5. Thanks for watching Live at 4 today, everybody. We hope to see you back here tomorrow. News 3 Now at 5 starts right now.